If this is your first time seeing my face, welcome and thanks for being here. If you know this face, well, welcome back. Recently, I've had more and more locals ask me why I choose to live in China and raise my child here. Like, isn't the grass greener on the other side? Well, no, it's not. I'm just kidding. It's all about perspective. And today I decided to share my top reasons for why I'm raising my child in China and not in my own home country of South Africa or anywhere else for that matter. So let's just jump right in. As a South African, I cannot stress this enough. Like, honestly, I feel like people think I exaggerate, but the number one reason I'm raising my daughter here is because of safety. I grew up during a very unique time in South Africa's history. Nelson Mandela was released from prison, and I essentially grew up in the new South Africa, as they call it. Well, sadly, the decline of the entire country has been extreme in the past 30 years. And I remember as a child being able to play outside. But as the years went by, danger and senseless violent crimes became the new norm. Back home, I was absolutely terrified of the dark because it always felt like at any time someone will be hiding in the dark, getting ready to attack you. And for no other reason than simply attacking you, whether it's to take your cell phone or to rape you. They will just attack you. Years ago, I was a bit of a party girl, and I can't tell you the amount of late nights, early mornings that I would take a taxi home and walk down dark alleys, kind of intoxicated, and I always made it home safely. Now, as a decent adult, I often walk home from the subway after dark, with my child sometimes, completely not intoxicated. And when you hear footsteps behind you or you see someone approaching from the front, you literally think nothing of it because nothing bad will happen. In summer, I started doing something which my daughter thought was very odd. I used to drive my bike home through the park, and there's a certain turn that you can make that will take you through a completely dark path. And I loved doing this because it gave me a sense of total freedom. Nowhere else in the world would I feel such a sense of freedom to do something so crazy. It's almost like, why do people like scary movies? Because it gives you this thrill of excitement and danger while knowing that you aren't actually in danger. That's exactly how I can describe it. And that's just one example. Once we accidentally left the keys in the e-bike for like 4 hours, and upon going outside, the bike was still there. As recently as Halloween, we accidentally left our backpack in a shop, and 2 hours later, when I realized the bag was missing, I retraced my steps, and sure enough, the bag was still there with my expensive face cream that I had just bought. My daughter plays outside with her friends while I'm at home cooking dinner or doing other chores. The worst thing that has ever happened to her is she fell down and scraped her knee. We can go mountain hiking in the middle of the night or day, completely alone in the woods and be completely safe. And honestly, you don't even need to lock your doors, at least not where I live. Many people always say that people in China have no freedom. Well, what is freedom exactly? I think this depends on who you ask. For me, as someone who has had an irrational fear of my environment my entire life, freedom means being completely free from those shackles of gripping fear. Living in fear for your life every day. Is that freedom? Worrying about your home while you go to the shops. Worrying about your children every time they step foot out the door. Worrying about crazed gunmen anytime you enter a shopping mall or a movie theater. Is that freedom? I'll let you decide that for yourself. But I know what freedom means to me. Sometimes I have to really take a moment and take a good hard look at my life and our lifestyle. And I won't lie, sometimes I feel like an imposter. How can I call this odd life that I'm living being an adult? Like, seriously, I feel like 80% of our lives is just a crazy adventure, which makes me feel like I'm not living in the right way. Because growing up, I had a very normal, stable childhood. My dad worked, my mom raised the kids, we went to school, we went to the mall every now and then, we went on holiday once a year, and everything was pretty much a routine, which isn't a bad thing. People, especially children, need stability and routine in their lives in order to function well. I sometimes wonder what our lives would be like if we lived in South Africa. Would we wake up on a Sunday and within the spur of a moment decide, hey, let's go mountain climbing? Would we ride our scooter 20 kilometers across the city and end up in a random village? Would we explore our city day after day on our bike? Would we hop on a train to go to the beach for a day? Would we ride home on our bike at midnight after joining friends for a get-together? Would 80% of things that we do turn into an adventure? I'm really not sure. All I know is nothing in my life is planned. Most of the things we do is usually the result of either a random coincidence or just a spur-of-the-moment decision. This makes our lives more interesting, and you kind of never know what each day will bring. And because of this, I feel like my child gets more exposure to finding happiness in random things around us. My true hope is that one day she will look back and say, we lived this crazy adventure every single day, and it was a blast. Of course, she does have a certain degree of routine. She goes to school, she goes to ballet class, badminton class, she plays with her friends. Some days we do just enjoy a calm, relaxing day at home. But I'll tell you one thing, that gets hella boring real quick, and usually we're out the door again onto our next adventure. People may not know this, but because of the one-child policy that has since been abolished, children are very important to families in China. I mean, it's not hard to imagine why. If every family only had one chance to have one kid and give that kid the best life, of course they will do everything in their power to raise their kid in the best way possible. Because of this, China is a very child-friendly society. Even before I was a mom, I quickly realized that people's lives revolve around their kids and doing everything for their kids. That used to annoy me a bit, but when I became a mom, I quickly realized how amazing that is. In every shopping mall, you can find an entire floor that is pretty much just the kids section, with plenty of kids' clothing stores, toy shops, activity centers, training centers, and indoor playgrounds. There's an abundance of things to do with kids all across the city, and most activities are designed for kids and families. I remember growing up, we never had indoor playgrounds. Are you kidding me? We had one Toys R Us. We had kids shows on TV from 1 to 5 every day, and the rest of the time the world revolved around, well, not kids. Is it a good thing to raise children in an environment where they might feel like they are the center of the universe? Maybe not. But do I always have something to do with my kid? You can bet your sweet self I do. Heck, we even have a holiday for children. Literally, it's called Children's Day. When I was growing up, I always asked my mom, why do we have Mother's Day and Father's Day, but no Kids Day? And she used to tell me, because every day is Children's Day. Well, that might be true, but in China, kids get their own dedicated holiday. The importance of raising happy, well-adjusted children is very important to Chinese society, and I love that. This is a big one too. Now look, I'm not saying teenagers in China don't do naughty things. Teens will be teens, no matter where they're from. But the mere fact that teenagers in China simply cannot be exposed to drugs is already a win. I remember as a teenager, the immense peer pressure to fit in was exhausting. It was cool if you could say you've tried drugs. It was cool if you were drinking underage or smoking. It was encouraged to lose your virginity at a young age. The social pressure from other teenagers was just immense. And of course, now as an adult, I roll my eyes and think, what a bunch of idiots. If I could go back in time and slap some sense into my teenage self, I would beat the shit out of me. And in fact, I still have severe PTSD from mean teenage girls that went to school with me and falling into a lot of traps that we were presented with in order to fit in. China severely punishes those who use or sell drugs, and rightly so. Have you seen the state of Western countries and the amount of homeless drug addicts? It makes me sad seeing videos of that, because while some people might say, oh, look at this piece of crap drug addict, what I see is someone's child. That human used to be a tiny, innocent child, and because of the peer pressures and social morals of their environment, they've become completely corrupted. And I find that incredibly sad. Same goes for smoking. It's very unusual to see a woman in China who smokes. I'm not saying they don't, I'm saying it's unusual because, well, smoking is nasty and women tend to be a little more or less nasty. And look, full disclaimer, sorry mom and dad, I know you know this, but I used to smoke. And why? Because it was cool. It was the in thing. To be honest, I never even enjoyed smoking, ever. It made me feel like crap all the time and I got sick a lot. But because I was so desperate to be accepted by my peers, I was willing to poison my body. And listen, if you're watching this as a smoker, no hate to you, none whatsoever. To each his own. We all have our vices. For me, I'm addicted to good food. You might be addicted to smoking. No hate. I'm just saying, if raising my daughter in China reduces her chances of doing drugs and smoking, well then that's a win for me. Because I need Botox to restore the years and years of damage I've done to myself with good old menthols. It's really hard for me to rate all these reasons in an order from most to least important because I feel like they're all on the same level. But cost of living is also very important to note. A couple of days ago, my mom told me she's glad that in 2023 she no longer has small children because she simply doesn't know how we would have survived as a family of 5. In South Africa, the cost of living has become so incredibly high, I don't even know how people do it. To give you a rough breakdown of the averages in Shenyang, I pay 2,400 RMB a month for my apartment. My electricity is 170 per month. Water is around 80 every 2 months. My internet is 39 RMB a month. Bus fare is 1.80 RMB and kids ride for free. The subway ranges from 2 to 6 yuan depending on distance, and kids under 130 centimeters ride for free. A week's worth of fresh vegetables cost no more than 40 yuan, and a dozen eggs are less than 10. A week's worth of fresh fruit will set you back closer to 80 yuan, depending on the type of fruit you enjoy. For me, I like all the expensive fruits. Our smart TV app is 30 a month, and while clothes from name brands in the shopping malls are very, very expensive, to me at least, you can find perfectly good quality clothes on Taobao. An indoor playground can cost anything between 30 to 180 yuan, and going to the movies is around 40 yuan per ticket. Train trips can cost anything between 20 to 300 yuan for traveling around Liaoning province, and small kids ride for free. Kids under 12 pay half price. I recently bought a bunk bed for my daughter for 2,800 RMB. Ballet class is 40 yuan per class, and badminton is 97 per class. Her art class costs 25 RMB per class. The bottom line is, I know I could never raise my daughter in South Africa at this quality of life at this cost. Now, of course, this is only in Shenyang. I have never lived in any other city in China, and of course, the cost of living in Beijing, Shanghai, or Shenzhen will be completely different and much, much higher. If you'd like a more in-depth video about the cost of living in Shenyang, tell me down below in the comments. In 2023, I think it's not unusual for many people to be exposed to people from all kinds of backgrounds. People are constantly immigrating and setting up roots elsewhere. But in China, it's still a little bit different because there's such a vast variety of foreigners living here. I've met people from countries that I've never even heard of. Here's looking at you, surname. I'm so sorry. We meet people from all over, and I think it's important for my child to know that the world is made up of many kinds of people with different languages, different cultures, different everything. I feel like in the long run, she will have a better understanding and be more understanding towards people from different walks of life. One thing she sometimes doesn't understand is, why are we not Chinese? She sometimes asks me, why are we Uyghur? And well, I tell her because we are. We're not from here. We are simply guests living here for the time being. And while we are different and we do have different traditions and we sometimes do things differently, it doesn't mean we can't embrace the culture that we are currently living in. I do wonder how she will identify as one day when she's older. She's a mixed blood baby, but she is 0% Chinese. Her bloodline are from 2 very different countries, but she was born and raised in a third, i.e. China. Essentially, she is from Shenyang. She was born in Shenyang, raised in Shenyang, has up until now lived her whole life in Shenyang, but she's not from China. She's not Chinese. But is she from South Africa? No, she didn't necessarily come here from South Africa. She's half South African by blood, but she's never lived in South Africa. If you are American born to 2 South African parents, you would be American. If you were American born to 2 Chinese parents, you would be American. If you live your entire life in South Africa or America, even with foreign parents, you would identify as that nationality, right? But my daughter can't exactly call herself Chinese because she's not. It's complicated. I guess I'll come back to this video about 15 years from now and be able to tell you in the comments how all of that worked out. Please remember that the opinions expressed in this video are my own, based on my own personal experience of actually actually raising my child in China. So please leave your nasty comments to yourself. You really will just be wasting your time and energy to write mean, hateful messages to a random woman in China. Like my old high school friend used to say, "Dis is kak op 'n een se rug." I actually think that's not even the right euphemism. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and do reach out if you have any questions. Until next time, bye!